Star Wars has finally revealed exactly how the Rebel Alliance discovered that the second Death Star existed. We all know the infamous way that the Rebel Alliance was able to find out the location and weapon system of Palpatine's second Death Star through the infamous Bothan spies, but with the new issue 28 of the Star Wars 2020 comic, we now know the way how they found out the station existed in the first place, and it's much darker. The discovery involves both the Crimson Dawn and Luke Skywalker going undercover as an Imperial officer. So today we're going to break down exactly how all of this went down and what it means for the future of Star Wars canon. So considering I haven't covered every single one of the previous issues in this series, I'm going to assume you need a little recap, and strap in because this storyline gets absolutely crazy.
Alright, put your seatbelt on.
So literally in the middle of the events of The Empire Strikes Back, Qi'ra, who you will probably remember from Solo as Darth Maul's apprentice and Han's lover,
one man couldn't have done this alone.
I wasn't there.
literally stole Han's carbonite frozen body from Boba Fett on Nar Shaddaa. Qi'ra then had the bright idea of auctioning off her former lover's body to the other crime syndicates across the galaxy, which as you can imagine caused complete and utter chaos. So much chaos that Palpatine himself took notice and sent in Darth Vader to keep the crime world under control. Qi'ra then proceeds to literally fight Darth Vader and put up a genuinely strong fight, I must say, but her true plan with all of this was to strike back at Darth Sidious and the Empire for making it impossible for scrum rats like herself to make it in the galaxy. And on top of that, her own master Darth Maul was wronged by Darth Sidious, giving her all the more reason to hate him. Going into the series, we all knew that she was doomed to fail in this goal because Qi'ra is nowhere to be seen on screen after Solo and Sidious is obviously in the OT. But maybe we were all dead wrong about this. Maybe Qi'ra's actions do actually lead to the fall of Palpatine, albeit in an indirect way. And that's what we're going to get into today. So with all of that said, let's begin with the start of the comic. The issue begins on one of the major ships of the Rebel Alliance fleet inside of the comms room. Hera Syndulla and Alliance General Luke Skywalker are reviewing incoming distress signals from across the galaxy of people looking to defect to the Rebel Alliance or find safety with them. This job pretty much consists of scouring out scams, schemes and undercover Imperial signals, but Luke focuses on one particular signal. He senses in the Force that something is going on with this particular signal from two Imperial defectors, and Hera is pretty hesitant about responding to it. Luke then assures Hera that everything is connected to the Force, and that's how he knows that this signal is real, to which she tells him that he sounds just like Kanan Jarrus.
I'm not crying, you're crying!
In case you don't know, Kanan was Hera's love interest in Star Wars Rebels and the master of Ezra Bridger. The other comms guy on this job agrees that if Luke Skywalker thinks that this signal is worth their time, then they have to take his word for it. This then leads to the deck officer to look further into the signature, and he determines that the two sending the signal fled the Empire with their shuttle called the Scopius, and that a systems-wide alert has been sent out for them. Because of this, they think it could be legit. Now, Luke on the other hand uses his mystical Force powers to look deeper into the situation.
Homer, use the fork. The fork? The forks.
Before realizing that there is something very significant about these two defectors. Finally, the tracker hooks into the ship's transponder and determines that the ship has first been to the river moon of Al-Dalim, which was the place where Darth Vader absolutely yeeted Kirakin Filler, flooded his entire city and then stole his lightsaber, and finally the ship ended at the lower levels of Coruscant on the scary level 2685. Down in the absolute pits of Coruscant where slime and sludge flows, the two Imperial defectors have brought their children with them. The father immediately realizes that Coruscant security speeders are quickly coming down to investigate the crash site, and if they aren't slowed down, they'll immediately be caught. As a result, he leaves his kids with their mother to pull off a distraction. She is very worried for his life, but he tells her that nothing bad is going to happen, and he wouldn't dare lie to her about something like that. I'm sure this means everything is going to go extremely well. After this, the man named Melton rushes back to the Scopium shuttle that they used to escape and desperately searches for the scuttle button so that he can self-destruct the ship and hopefully take the security forces out with it. Melton finds the button just in time and activates it on a delay and leaves the ship just in time. The guards chasing him run right into the trap and the whole thing goes killing all of them and leaving Melton with just a few small scrapes to the face. We then cut back to the Rebel fleet where the rebels are shocked at Luke's suggestion to just waltz onto Coruscant, the literal home of the Emperor.
Are you out of your goddamn mind?
And I don't blame them. By this point in the timeline, everyone knows just how powerful and cruel Palpatine can be. But regardless, Luke offers to go to Coruscant himself for the pickup, and Hera strongly advises against this, considering A, he's literally the only Jedi they have, and B, everyone knows his name and there are huge bounties on him because of what happened to the first Death Star. Hera Syndulla is insistent that he doesn't go to Coruscant by himself, but nobody's going to stop a Jedi who is being told by the Force that something very important is going on there. We then cut to an awesome shot of Luke in full Imperial officer attire, blending in perfectly with the Coruscant Works district. This is actually where Palpatine and Dooku often held their secretive meetings during the Clone Wars and featured heavily in the Darth Plagueis novel. Despite the concerns of the rebels who dropped him off, Luke assures them that everything is going to be alright and hands over his lightsaber.
What the heck is that, man?
The two are shocked. They ask, "Won't you need this?" But Luke wisely realizes that if he even dares to ignite it, the whole planet will collapse onto his location and tear him to shreds.
They at least die painlessly? To shreds, you say?
Cutting back to the family, they come under intense fire from the local security forces and a terrifying Coruscant underworld creature approaches one of the children. Thankfully, the disgusting sewer creature is quickly taken out by the mother, but the other Coruscant security forces are still on their tail. The children are terrified and the parents know that they're completely boxed in. This is likely the end of the road for them and they'll be turned over to the Empire as traitors. Thankfully though, Melton sees a new tunnel in the distance and immediately herds the rest of his family towards it, giving them one final chance at escaping. As they move into the tunnel, however, an Imperial looking figure approaches the family and immediately opens fire on him. As you can probably tell by now, the Imperial officer is actually Luke Skywalker, who we saw get into the disguise earlier, and he's forced to use the Force to dodge their blaster fire. Not to mention, he pulls the blaster right out of the mother's hands, proving to them that he really is a Jedi. The kids are incredibly happy and excited to see this, not even knowing what a Jedi is, asking how he even managed to find them. Luke tells them that he simply found some stormtroopers and asked them where the search was taking place.
That's it.
At this point though, Luke can't take too long explaining things as the Coruscant security forces are yet again still on their way. So knowing this, Luke tries something different. He tries to get the troopers to stand down using the Imperial officer disguise, but this fails horribly. Luke, using his knowledge of the Force, realizes that there are far too many to fight, or even mind trick, so he does something incredibly special. He uses the animal bond Force ability used by the likes of Ezra Bridger and Obi-Wan Kenobi in the past to lure out the underworld swamp creatures. Luke then unleashes the beasts on the troopers, giving the family an easy escape route out. Luke gives a quick little quip before we cut back to the Rebel Alliance fleet with Hera Syndulla and Mon Mothma. Luke informs Mon Mothma and Hera that the family is being debriefed by Rebel intelligence as they speak, but he had a chance to speak to them on the way back. The information that he has is so important that he asks Leia to be present to hear it. Luke then takes a pause and reveals that the parents who defected from the Empire were both members of the Crimson Dawn crime family. If you've seen Solo: A Star Wars Story, you'll remember that this is Dryden Voss and Darth Maul Syndicate, and in the recent comic line they've been attempting to take down the Empire as we went over at the start of this video. This sends Admiral Akbar and Hera into a fiery discussion about them, but Mon Mothma quickly pulls them out of it. This isn't the main issue. Luke then drops a huge bombshell that the Empire is building yet another Death Star, much to the shock of the others. All of their jaws drop at this revelation and none of them know what to say. After some thought, Mon Mothma says, "If we could do it once, we can do it again. Let's get to work." Which is pretty corny and not the most compelling reaction to the situation, but there we have it. The rebels finally know about the second Death Star, and we still don't know how the Bothan spies play into this storyline. I'm going to assume they show up in the next few issues and begin sending missions to scout out the second Death Star, and these will probably involve the Bothans. Hopefully we actually get to see that covered off of the big screen, which would be the biggest storyline shown in the comics for a long time, unless they shy away from doing anything too meaningful in the comics in case they want to show it on the big screen. Hopefully that begins to change. But either way, to keep up with everything happening in the Star Wars canon, hit that subscribe button and leave a like, and I will see you in the next one.